Darko Rajakovic had a scary quote about Christian Koloko's health today, as the whole interaction basically made it seem like Christian Koloko's career could be in serious jeopardy due to his current illness. So we'll discuss that, including Otto Porter Jr. taking some shots, some heat being thrown the way of Raptors forward Otto Porter Jr., and Pascal Siakam getting ranked by ESPN's top 100, and his placement doesn't seem that crazy. So we'll break it all down in this video. Without further ado, let's jump to the first topic of discussion. First thing we're taking a look at is Christian Koloko's potentially career-threatening illness. Now, Christian Koloko is a guy a lot of Raptors fans were really excited about coming into this year, being a player that's coming into his second season. You know, he's an older rookie coming into the Toronto Raptors last year, but big men, they take a couple seasons to develop. But Koloko's a guy, again, 7'1". He's still a young player. Didn't have the craziest stat line last season, but didn't get a whole lot of minutes, but protects the rim really well. The advanced stats in terms of lineup data, really loved his defensive presence. So Raptors fans were excited to see him come into this year, and we're excited to see him come into Summer League. However, he was dealing with a respiratory issue during Summer League, which kept him out of there. Then we heard news as media day came around and preseason and training camp and all that stuff is going down, is Christian Koloko is also still out with this respiratory illness, and there hasn't been a lot of chatter, a lot of details revealed in terms of what this illness really is. Until today, when Darko Rajakovic was asked about the health of some of the Toronto Raptors players, and Precious Achiuwa is another guy with a groin injury that apparently they're bringing him back a little bit slowly, as it makes sense. It's only preseason, and they want him, not to have something lingering, something nagging over the course of the year. Talked about Otto Porter Jr., who we'll discuss later in this video, but the comments Darko Rajakovic had on Christian Koloko have me a little bit concerned. Now, the question was framed in a certain way that's very extreme, but I'll just basically show you the interaction and then we can break it down.
I was just going to say, keeping with all the talk about injuries, I mean, Christian's the ones that you guys are the respiratory problem that you talked about on media day. Is that something that could be career threatening, or is that something like, can you overcome this? It's just sort of vague right now.
And we'll keep it that way from now.
It's going to stay vague.
Yes.
In terms of your defensive performance.
So quick response there from Darko Rajakovic. Obviously, Raptors fans want to know the health of their players. We hate, thinking about there could be something serious going on, but it feels like obviously that question was framed to an extreme sort of circumstance. Is it career threatening? Is it something crazy along those lines? But the fact that Darko didn't sort of diminish that statement, didn't counterback, said, no, it should be fine, or anything along those, just didn't address it, said we'll leave it that way, kept it extremely ambiguous, doesn't certainly mean that has a career-threatening illness. We don't really know what specifically it is, but the fact that he didn't sort of calm people's downs, ease the worries of Toronto Raptors fans, that sort of response, the face, the body language turning completely in the other direction, might be reading into it a little bit too much, but it just feels really scary to see that quote, and the only thing we can really say as Toronto Raptors fans is to wish the best for Christian Koloko. Hopefully all that stuff ends up healing quickly. It's tough to really say how you can rehab sort of a respiratory issue. Obviously, I'm not a doctor or anything along those lines, but praying for Christian Koloko right now. Hopefully he's able to play the season. His career's not cut short while he's been only in the league for one season, has shown tremendous potential. But that's not the only player that's dealt with some sort of issues, staying on the court and things along those lines, as Otto Porter Jr. has been taking some serious heat from some pundits, specifically Steven Jackson out there in the media. And Otto Porter Jr., again, he's fallen out of favor from a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, just given the fact he wasn't able to stay on the court whatsoever last year. But out of nowhere, Steven Jackson on his pod came out and threw just a stray at the Toronto Raptors forward, basically coming out and saying that he's taking shots. It's hard to set expectations when you got so many players that have money. I mean, that haven't done anything. Otto Porter Jr., where's he at? He has $100 million in Washington, and we haven't seen him since. And, Otto Porter Jr., he's a guy that, yes, got a lucrative deal from the Washington Wizards. A lot of people thought it was an expensive contract even when he got it, but he was a solid 3-and-D player for that team, a third option on a perennial playoff squad with John Wall, Bradley Beal. He was not some scrub. He was not some bum that was just an average role player that ended up getting that sort of contract and stuff along those lines. But where did he go? What happened to him? Well, Otto Porter Jr. has done some things since he left Washington, since he got that contract. He was a key piece for those playoff teams, for the Chicago Bulls and Orlando Magic. Dealt with injuries, wasn't in the right sort of position to really thrive and achieve there. But for the Washington Wizards, the Golden State Warriors, he was a starting caliber player on a championship winning team, basically proving that, if you could start on a championship winning team, you probably have earned $100 million. In terms of your talent, in terms of your ability, obviously you have to stay on the court. It's been disappointing his career due to the fact he's dealt with injuries, but he has fallen off since that point. Again, his stats weren't that crazy for the Golden State Warriors either. Obviously, that's a lot of money. He wasn't getting paid that type of money when he's with the Warriors, or not with us either. And last season for the Toronto Raptors, in his few games that he had, averaged 5.5 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, shooting a decent percentage from the three-point line, and hopefully he's able to turn things around now at this point. But just a random stray, just completely out of nowhere from Steven Jackson. And, speaking of injury updates in this video, we also have an update regarding Otto Porter Jr.'s health and potentially his availability come the start of the season. And we got another quote from Darko Rajakovic, so let's just pull that one up here as well.
We didn't see him in the scrimmage or the game. We didn't hear of any new injuries. So is there a plan to get him into games before the season starts?
Hopefully. Today was the day he played 3-on-3 live against some younger guys on the roster. He did really well today. So hopefully we're going to see him in the preseason.
So again, the Raptors are hopeful Otto Porter Jr. will be able to play some minutes, get some run in preseason. Obviously, we don't want to load up the minutes on Otto Porter Jr. given the fact he has dealt with some injuries, and we don't want to risk anything, right? We want to get the most out of Otto Porter Jr. He's a vet. He's probably not a guy. Definitely needs to shake the rust off after basically taking a year off last season, but basically hoping we have him in the rotation come the start of this year. So hopefully he's healthy and can prove guys like Steven Jackson wrong. But final thing we're discussing in this video is ESPN Top 100 ranking Pascal Siakam as a top 25 player. Now, the ESPN Top 100, we talked about it regarding OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes in the last vid, and they always like to rile things up, get some crazy rankings and stuff along those lines, but they put Pascal Siakam probably at a place where I think I would agree with relatively. Obviously, they're all subjective and stuff along those lines, but I think it's a safe placement for Pascal. Looking at his placement, 25th on the list, one slot behind Kawhi Leonard, which I find kind of crazy, but I guess if you factor in injuries, makes sense. But ahead of guys like Trae Young, ahead of guys like Drew Holiday, kind of in the mix there. Maybe could be a couple slots higher just given his stats from last season. Pascal averaging 24 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, all that type of stuff. His stats would probably put you higher. However, the fact the Toronto Raptors haven't achieved a bunch of success, and it's not like Siakam hasn't had help around him that much. I mean, guys like Fred is an established all-star, or Gary, Scotty. It hasn't been the perfect roster by any means, but I get with this placement. I think it's a fair placement for Pascal Siakam. The list is a little bit kind of crazy. Again, I'm still kind of cheesed about Austin Reeves being ahead of OG Anunoby, despite the fact that OG's basically a similar offensive player. However, is light years ahead on the defensive end. So I don't know, these lists just get people riled up, but their placement of Pascal Siakam, a regular guy that they use, they have DeMar DeRozan's a player they like to use to rile people up. Trae Young always gets people sort of mad and hysterical with these lists, but Pascal Siakam is a player that sort of usually gets thrown under the bus with one of these lists, but I think he got a decent positioning. Moved up 5 spots from last year, but let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. You guys are the best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Lots of fun stuff coming over the next few weeks in the season coming around, so you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.